So, things are looking up. You've gained the favor of the Lotus Assassins. With the recommendation of the Executioner, the others will welcome you as a recruit. You can slip into the very heart of their lair. You could also seek out the Inquisitor and gain his recommendation as well, but the path to the Lotus Assassin Fortress is ready for you now.
And after we find the evidence against Death's Hand, you will take us to the palace to find Master Li?
I promise, little Dawnstar. After we get what I want from the Lotus Assassins, the palace is the first place we will go. You have permission, so there won't be any trouble entering. It's only after we have the evidence against Death's Hand that they might notice something is wrong.
We'll worry about that when the time comes.
It would still be good to get some information first. Sagacious Zoo might know something. We should ask him. Where is he?
Well, you should be more careful of who you trust.
If I did that, none of you would be here.
That is true. I wouldn't trust any of the ragged homeless you have collected. No offense meant to those of you who are actually homeless, Dawnstar. If Sagacious Zoo has gone to warn the Lotus Assassins, you need to move quick. If he's just run off, he is no longer our concern.
Zoo would not turn on us.
The Lotus Assassin Fortress is in the far end of the necropolis. They shouldn't give you any trouble. Just appear confident as you enter.
I'm going to go do the task for the other recruiter first, just cuz.
The Inquisitor will have some task that needs addressing, I'm sure. Scholar Dungao in the Scholar's Garden is the contact.
Is there anything you want to discuss before I get moving? Anything personal?
I don't understand. You've gained the favor of the Lotus Assassins with a fair amount of ease. What else is there to speak of? Is there something you are wondering?
Tell me about yourself. I want to know more about you.
About me? I am Princess Sun Lian, the Heavenly Lily. What more are you worthy of knowing?
I'll tell you about your childhood.
I do not remember ever being allowed to just be a child. My mother died when I was born, shortly before the end of the long drought and the fall of my uncles. I was in the care of tutors too afraid to punish me and too ingratiating to teach me anything useful. I quickly found ways to sneak away from the palace. They dared not report my excursions for fear they would be punished. They would scurry around all day trying in vain to find me.
Isn't that a dangerous thing for a young girl to do?
Yes, it was. I didn't fully understand the risk and made some mistakes. But in the end, what I have become is a result of that. In the city, I met the people. The peasants, the homeless, the thieves. It was a much different world from what you see from the palace. They never realized who I was. I'm sure they would have been terrified of the army storming in to rescue me. Most just wanted to be left alone. That life was exciting, but also useful. Even Lotus Assassins overlook the beggar on the street, but she still has eyes and ears.
How about you tell me, wait a minute. Tell me about Silk Fox.
Ah, the shadow behind my public self. How else can a curious princess learn what really happens in her domain? I don't have time to interpret the veiled statements of advisors, so I became a thief, an assassin, whatever I needed to be. People will not speak to the princess. Bad news kills the messenger first. Silk Fox knows how to persuade. That is how I learned about the activities of Death's Hand.
I'm sure you find being Silk Fox exciting as well.
There is a freedom in it. I have the resources to go anywhere and the secrecy to do anything. If I wished it, I could be quite carefree. But that is not what I have found in practice. Instead, I see how my father's reign has twisted, and I know I must do something.
No one notices that you are gone for such lengthy periods?
There are many excuses for a vain princess to retreat from sight for days, even weeks at a time. My father encourages such getaways. And if courtiers ever discovered that I was not where I said I would be, who would dare question the heavenly lily? I may eschew the formality of it, but being the daughter of the Emperor still has its privileges.
Tell me about your time at court.
I do not like to speak about that. I try to avoid the court as much as possible. It is filled with sycophants pandering to the fancies of my father, with little or no concern to their own dignity. It is distasteful.
I think you would do well at court.
I can handle myself better than any of the fancy courtiers who attempt to match me. I know that someday the court will be mine to rule. When I succeed my father, there will be quite a cleaning out, but with Death's hand manipulating him, that day seems less and less likely.
Now, how about you tell me about your first love?
It would be very improper for someone of my standing to say anything, unless you make me a little more comfortable. I have already shared something of myself. Can you tell me something about you? Is there anyone that you care for?
Now, this is interesting. You can remember say there's no one for me, or well, there is one person, a noble. Or you can say you find Sky quite compelling, or you say Dawnstar is of great interest to me. And I don't know how she responds basically to these. I don't think I've ever actually done this line of questioning. So yeah. Hmm. Well, let's tease her a little bit. Well, there is one person, a noble.
A noble. How romantic. Aloof. Separate by class and breeding. Unattainable for a peasant, normally. Wanting someone you can never have. Love you can never show in public. Such loneliness should not exist. I have contributed to that. The princess behaves as she should, reinforcing the very rules I despise, all to protect Silk Fox. Which one am I?
Well, honestly, I don't know which one's which because if you think about it, one is an open palm response and one is a closed fist response. Basically, if you say she takes whatever she wants, that's kind of selfish. But if you go this route, it makes it seem like you can make like doesn't matter who you're born as, you can make it however you feel like. So I would say you are Princess Sun Lian, but that does not mean you are any less deserving of being happy.
I should not be ungrateful. Everything in my life is dedicated solely to making me happy, but I am at odds with so much. I am always behind a mask, not just when I am Silk Fox. I am not allowed to show an interest in politics, defending the Empire, or even spontaneous affection. You were amusing at first, but now I am drawn further than I meant to be. What do you suppose I should do about that?
Hmm. So this that's a pretty decent philosophical question. I mean, some of these are pretty much like you backing off for all intents and purposes, but the other two are pretty philosophical. This one is very forward, but this one is very different. I think this one is a little bit more, I think, what her speed is. Tradition can be maintained without restraining people. And as the Heavenly Lily, you can make certain of it.
I have tried to make a place for myself. It was difficult, but I have succeeded, despite Death's hand or my father or what people think. The Jade Empire has had strong female leaders before. Most met with unfortunate ends. At critical junctures, they were abandoned. Whatever I decide about the Empire or about you, can I count on you to be here?
Always.
You asked me about my first love. It was the Empire and its people. There might be room for another, given time and effort. I don't think I will shatter any grand conventions of the Empire by courting outside the list of pockmarked nephews of statesmen. You and I will have much to discuss after we have restored my father. I am looking forward to it.
Goodbye for now.
Do not hesitate for too long. Sagacious Zoo's sudden flight has made our task somewhat more urgent.
But not that urgent. So, what's crack with you people? Bit of a late introduction, but it's Anansi. Welcome back to Jade Empire. And in this one, instead of going off after Sagacious Zoo, because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of mistimed how I wanted to do the opening for this episode. We're gonna spend some time talking to our allies before we go off and do the Inquisitor route, because even though Sagacious Zoo took flight a second ago, nothing he's ever done throughout the game has made it explicit that he would intentionally sabotage us just because. So for now, we're going to swap partners.
My
Back to
weapons are at your disposal.
Lian, and then we're going to talk to pretty much everybody here except for Kang, because Kang. All we can do with Kang is either prepare the flyer or do Lord Lao's furnace. We're pretty much going to do Kang before we do the Lotus Empire, the Lotus Assassin Fortress, just to give you that heads up in case you're wondering. But for now, let's see how everybody's doing. Let's start with Dawnstar.
I suppose it is good that the Lotus Assassin Executioner accepted you. I wish I felt better about that. Will you be heading to the Lotus Assassin Fortress soon? When you are through there, the princess will take us to the palace. At least, that's what she promised.
Did you want to talk? Your feelings are very important to me.
We are much closer to finding our master, but the path you are forced to take worries me, and I don't think the princess shares my concern. We have faced these Lotus Assassins in small numbers before, but this is something different.
I am strong enough. Numbers do not concern me. But I think we should probably alleviate her concerns. At least show that we're paying attention. I understand. It is getting their favor that concerns you.
I see the necessity of walking in their steps to fool them, but I am growing accustomed to you, and I don't want to see this change you.
Really? What do you like about me now?
You embarrass me with such forward questions, but I think I like that as well. It bothers me that you risk so much to walk in the shadow of the enemy. You fought through the arena with your honor intact, but the Lotus Assassins will press you to commit far more vicious acts. I don't want to win if it claims the good in you. What right do we have to harmony if we sacrifice what we believe to get it?
I'm concerned as well. I promise I will not become as they are.
I know you won't, but it still does my heart good to hear it. The more I know about you, the more I want you to stay as you are. It would be a shame for something to happen when we are becoming close. We will talk again. I know everything will work out just fine.
Alright, goodbye for now.
Don't go too far. I'd get lost in this city. I know it.
Alright, so as you can see here, this is where we can pretty much take a turn to, as you saw in the previous conversation with Silk Fox, we can take a turn. Dang, Sky, get your arrow from my business, why don't you? This is where we can take a turn to really push the romantic options that we have available. If you played Mass Effect, you know that eventually, if you go too far down both romantic routes, you will have a confrontation about who you would prefer to be with. And we'll get more, and I want to actually kind of talk about that, because when Mass Effect 1 and Jade Empire came out, a lot of notions of romance were still very kind of traditional, single partnered, as it were. I had mentioned earlier that there have been gay romance options in previous Bioware games, or at the very least, characters who have been hinted at to be gay. And I mentioned that those characters in Jade Empire, they're basically Silk Fox and Sky, with Dawnstar being a traditional character. I've noticed as I've gone about life that the notions of traditional romance have, for the most part, changed, right? Like for instance, and I will be making mention of, or at least very least be showing off what happens if you choose a same-sex partner inside Jade Empire, because it's interesting what happens, but at the same time, it's not. It's more or less a reflection of what was acceptable at the time. In this one, and as the years have gone on, we have seen more and more same-sex romance options go through in games that have the option of having a romantic partner. But I also want to kind of bring mention to one thing, and I want to know what people's kind of reaction to this is. I'm still on the fence about it personally, but I have seen it become more and more and more of a prevalent thing, even though when it does happen, the instances I've heard of it becomes kind of like controversial, hard to maintain, kind of like it falls apart into a mess very fast. But I've heard more and more of like multiple partner relationships, and I'm wondering how you guys feel about it, because I think as we see it become more and more prevalent, because polygamy is a thing, make no mistake, but like that's basically what I'm talking about, polygamy. The other thing is polyamory, which is pretty much the same thing, but not with a lot of strings attached. And as we're seeing more and more and more of this stuff kind of creep into, I would say, Western culture more than anything else. I know it's a big thing in like other cultures. I want to say in the Middle Eastern, I think in some Asian cultures, it's very common to have more than one wife. Well, like more than one partner. So we can kind of keep everything kind of gender neutral right now. But my question is, where do you guys stand on that? Like, do you care to see that trend kind of continue in gaming? Because, and I'm only saying this because I remember specifically a time when you had a romance option. It was male and female. Then it became, okay, you can have female, but you can't have more than one. You have to make a choice. But I wonder how long that convention is going to stick around, because, well, gaming is, for all intents and purposes, a form of safe space. It's an escape. It is your way of getting away from reality so you can just kind of enjoy what you like doing. And I know I'm kind of breaking that illusion by bringing this up, but I do wonder how long before we see that, or if we will see that. You know what I'm saying? And what would happen when that happens? I'm still on the fence about it myself. I still don't know how I feel about it. Because at the end of the day, it's a video game. You know, you can kind of do whatever you want. Or at least that's the idea. But we are still restricted in, well, the technology of the time, i.e. what you're seeing with Jade Empire, and with the conventions of the time, as we can kind of see with games that came out late 90s to, I would say, mid to late 2000s, because even in Mass Effect, they pretty much killed the same-sex romance option when EA bought out BioWare, and it's for a dumb reason, which I'll get into later. Talk the Black Whirlwind. What's up, man?
What? What do you want?
I'd like to hear more about your past.
Too much talking and thinking can be dangerous, I should know. I remember one cold winter I took a job clearing rats from a local monastery. I was supposed to make sure the pests stayed out of the sacred pools, but hunting rats one at a time is boring work. So I had an idea, a way to catch them all at once. I convinced the monks to give me some of their sacred wine, and I filled the sacred pools. I figured if I could get the rats drunk, they'd be so much easier to catch.
I feel like we've already heard this story before, but I'll go ahead and let it play through because if we have, it's going to be an example of me either A, not saving, which I don't think I did, or B, what was B again? What was B again? Or B, the game is kind of glitching out, which, well, maybe that's what the game glitching out, but maybe certain scripts not triggering into programming. Sometimes it's an oversight more than a glitch. Because a glitch is when something unintentional happens, and an oversight is when you kind of forget to do something. If that makes any sense. I can't believe you got rats drunk.
Nothing happened at first, so I helped myself to the wine. I passed out before the rats came. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by screaming monks and fiery explosions. It was just the rats. The poor furry buggers were just trying to get warm near the monks' fires after their swim in the wine. Not a good combination.
No, at least you got rid of the rats.
The monks wanted me gone. I might have deserved the blame, but the abbot insisted it was a sign from the gods and closed the monastery. See what happens when you think too much?
That's all for now.
Whatever.
Thank you. Have you ever considered settling down?
Tried that once. It didn't work out. Prefect Mu Hong pledged his daughter Mi Shan to me after I cleared his district of bandits. She wasn't ugly, so I agreed. The night of the wedding feast, I got more than a little drunk, and in the morning I woke up in the prefect's bed, next to the prefect's wife.
Well, that's one way to get to know your new family.
I got up and went into my bride's room, and there was a strange man in her bed. I killed the bastard and was about to kill her when Mishan came into the room yelling. Apparently, I had just killed her sister's husband and was about to kill her sister. I tried to tell her it was an honest mistake, but she wouldn't hear it.
The look on my dude's face. You killed your wife's brother-in-law? By mistake?
The brother-in-law's family was pissed, and so was the prefect when he found out about his wife. They tried to subdue me so they could send me to prison. I killed them all swiftly. None of them suffered. Still, Mishan wouldn't leave with me. She kept crying and complaining about her family. Family life just isn't for me.
What are your thoughts on our current situation?
Ooh, this is going to be fun. Those Lotus assassins won't know what hit them. This might just be the most exciting day of my life. You know, battles like this don't come along every day. We could very well die in there, cut up into small pieces, trying to fight off hundreds of enemies. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Come on, let's go to the fortress and have some fun.
Alright, that's it. Let me check my journal real quick, because I feel like let's go to the filter. Okay, so yes, I did do this. I'm gonna say, I know I say it, so I guess it just... Oh, wait, that's right. That's right. I died. I completely forgot. I had died in a previous save, and therefore the conversation we had with Black Rowan didn't go through. Huh. No wonder that felt so familiar. Did I actually do anything else? No, I don't think I did. Okay. So now, let's go on to Sky.
Always happy to help. What do you need?
What's on your mind right now?
I was thinking about a story my father once told me. He was a scoundrel, but he could spin a fine yarn when he wasn't robbing caravans. Have you ever heard the tale of the Eternal Companions?
I can't say I have. What brought it to mind?
The Eternal Companions were a group of warriors that traveled the ancient kingdoms, well before the formation of the Empire. They were said to be giants, to know styles no one could match, and to always appear to offer their services to a kingdom when times were worst.
Were these warriors real?
The tales are too fantastic to be accurate. Though I'm sure the Black Whirlwinds tried at least once, no one can actually cleave a mountain in two. What made me bring this up was just a simple thought. Were these companions real people once? Were they just like us? Something tells me they were, but not in the way you'd expect. You know how legends tend to grow in the telling? I think they also absorb other tales as they go.
You think what we're doing is just another version of the tale?
I doubt it. For instance, we have yet to wipe out a rival kingdom. Failing that, I'm a bit shy of 12 feet tall. The point is that when things are wrong, people believe that someone will do something about it. Whether we succeed or not, we're those someones right now. More importantly, you're the someone. You're the real reason we're together, and I worry about how much of this rides on your shoulders. What I'm really trying to say is that we're all with you until this thing is finished. I just hope you can draw some strength from that.
Thank you, Sky. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. I hate to wax morbid, but this is serious business. Now, shouldn't you be talking to Dawn Star instead of me? I've seen the way that girl looks at you, and she deserves a little attention.
I see you there, Sky, trying to be my wingman. So yeah, going off of what I said earlier when it comes to romance partners, right now I believe we've taken a dialogue route where Sky only sees us as friends, which good, yeah, which that's fine by me. I want to kind of save showing that off for another time, maybe. But more or less, what I'm getting at with regards to my earlier tangent about same-sex couples and BioWare kind of dropping in Mass Effect 2 is that I believe the reason why they dropped the ability to have same-sex relationships in Mass Effect 2 was EA said, and I quote, "No one wants to hear about someone else's Garrus being gay," which is kind of dumb because by the time that decision was made, same-sex relationships were pretty much becoming a well-established thing. It's like at this point, it's kind of hard to ignore that it happens. And my whole mindset is, why is it so important whether or not it happens? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Whoop de freaking do. But gaming should be an escape, And it's also a form of artistic expression. Let the writers/developers create what they will create, and let the general public decide from there what they think about it. It is not the job of the studio with regards to movies or TV shows, or the publisher with regards to gaming and writers, what gets put inside of an entertainment medium. Okay? That's my philosophy. As long as it's nothing too overly extreme, and I feel like artists for the most part know where the line is. Most artists who are generally trying to create something that's going to last a little while know where that line is, and they know how far they can push it and how far they shouldn't push it. Some artists who are only artists to be edgy, they don't know what that line is, and they more often than not crash and burn or find a niche. At that point, it's up to history to sort them out. It's true. Believe it or not, it is true. Like thinking back to I want to say half a decade ago. I want to say 7-8 years ago. A game came out released. It was called Hatred, and it only advertised itself on basically being a glorified anarchist public shooter kind of sim. and it was getting all these publicities, there's all this publicity based upon that. Then the game came out, and the general audience was like, this is not as fun as I thought it would be, or even as interesting as it makes itself out to be. And that's what I mean. Having like just being shocked for shock value's sake is like hardly ever works. I don't even think looking back in another 10 years, Hatred will even be seen as even a remotely decent game. It will just be a game that came out at this time just cause. And that's more or less what I'm getting at. So it'll be interesting to see where the artistic medium that is entertainment goes from here. Now, Hidden Pecto.
Yes? How can this humble bun master assist you today?
I don't want to hear about you being the master of buns. Why don't you just leave your life home? Start over.
My prescient pretty has an uncanny knack for derailing my plans, in case you haven't already noticed. I have tried several times to leave, but it always fails miserably. Some say there are spirits out there that masquerade as people, and I suspect she may be one of them. She has my soul, and there's nothing I can do about it.
That seems a little far-fetched, though.
One time, I tried to sneak away while she was delivering a special order of buns to her uncle's family. As I started to leave, I slipped on some oil and broke my arm. Still, I put my arm in a sling and was continuing on my way when I was run down by a rogue bun cart. When I came to, my wife had returned and was in a foul mood. Apparently, everyone she had visited died from food poisoning. But why not her? I mean, I'm sure she ate at least one of the buns I sent.
Are you saying that the buns were poisoned?
I am saying no such thing. It is simply my lot in life to be given into the care of a demon whose sole sustenance comes from sucking the very life from my body and soul. Soup, anyone?
What are your thoughts on our situation, man?
I still can't believe it's that easy to become a Lotus assassin. If I had known sooner, I would have joined their ranks as soon as possible. It would be brutal work, with little reward, and there's a good chance I'd die a hideous, painful death. But it couldn't all be better than married life, could it?
You have any family, Ho? Any children?
No. That is a painful subject, one that brings back difficult memories, though not for the reasons you might think. For 4 long years, my bellicose beauty insisted we try, and try, and try again to have a child. It was a most distressing time. I was so afraid of her for the first year that I could not perform. Her screaming and chastising only made it worse. I overcame that problem, but there were others.
I see. You don't have to go on if you don't want to.
No, you have saved my life. You deserve to hear the terrible, awful truth. As I said, there were other problems. My plump plum of a bride is a good deal larger than me. I could compare my nightly efforts akin to climbing a mountain if only it had been that easy. And there was always the fear that she would roll. I am a small man. My delicate frame was not meant for such pressures. I once lost all feeling below the waist, which perhaps was a mercy in itself. Of course, we overcame these obstacles and kept trying for 4 long years.
So, you never had a child?
Never. Though no one can accuse me of not trying. Once she decided we would not be able to conceive a child, her interests declined, thankfully. If we had succeeded, I would not have survived to see a second.
That's all for now. Okay, that was an awkward conversation. Anything else you guys say, Sky?
Always.
Okay, let's see what, I think Brett was all tapped out. Dawnstar?
Be careful in the Lotus.
Um,
That is not really necessary right now, although I do enjoy the attention. We have come so far together. Thank you for that.
so yeah, so she's good right now, so let's check on Wildflower. I kind of feel like this doting older brother, so I really want to know how she's doing.
What do you want?
What do you think of her current situation?
Now you're one of them, aren't you? But not really, right? We have to find them so we can stop them. I know you can do it. All the people whisper in fear about them, but you stand up and fight back. But the princess said you'll have to get inside their fortress to find them.
The Fortress of the Lotus Assassins, hidden among the graves and necropolis. A fitting place for their corruption.
Is there anything else you want?
That'll be all.
Okay.
So we're going to call it a part here. In the next one, we're still not going to do the Inquisitor side quest, but what we are going to do is clean up several, what's the word? We're going to pretty much do every single side quest that we can do in the Imperial City before we move on to Necropolis. I have been Anansi. You have been awesome. This has been a very disjointed episode, and I will catch you later. Deuces.